Morning all, caught me out then, that did. Morning all, how the devil are we? I hope you're good, I hope you've been well. How's your weekend been? How are you after yesterday? We'll talk about that in a minute. Well, it's Sunday, it's 10 a.m. It's time for the famous Foxes Aftermath show, run by the fans, for you fans out there. And after yesterday's game, your opinion matters. And we've got a bit of a Leicester fan coming on that you might well know. So come on, get them comments in. Come on, let's get going.
Welcome to Leicester Fan TV. Are you ready for the show? Thanks to our sponsors, ADT Taxis, Everards, Pukka Pies, Pink Car Leasing, Leicester Riders, Hollogram, The Fox's Arms, Peter's Pizzeria, Hope Against Cancer, and Newby Co estate agents. We want your views, we want your comments, so join us live. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Morning all, how the devil are you? Yes, unfortunately we lost to Arsenal 1-0 yesterday at home. Was it a good game? Was it a decent performance? Was it solid at the back? Were we lacking creativity? That's the questions I'll be going to ask our guest in a minute. And our guest today is Ian Burchnall. He's actually managed two professional league clubs in the UK, which is what most of us want to do. We've all said, oh yeah, we could manage a club, we can do this. But this bloke, Ian, and he's a true Leicester fan as well, he's done it. So let's bring Ian in and see how he is. How are you, pal? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Perfect. Like I was just saying in that build-up, you've actually done what a lot of Leicester fans want to do and manage clubs. So how did that actually start for you? Because you're a lad from Leicester. So how did that actually start for you?
It started, just with grassroots football, really. Started working. I was up in Leeds. I moved from Leicester to Leeds to study. Ended up working at Leeds United for a few years and Bradford City in the academies with the young players there. And then I went out actually and was, I finally got a chance in the professional game out in Norway in the top league. I was assistant to Brian Dean, which is ex-Fox.
Friend of a show as well. He's been on a few times.
Yeah, he's top man, Brian. And so I worked with him for 2 years. And then I ended up out abroad for about 7 or 8 years. I ended up managing a team in the top league in Norway. I managed a team in the top league in Sweden. I followed Graham Potter after he left to Swansea to go to Östersund. And then since I came back to the UK, I've taken over at Notts County and then most recently Forest Green. So, it's been an interesting journey, but a good fun one as well.
Good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Like, you're living the dream of most fans wanting to be a manager. Oh, yeah, we can do that. But you've actually done it and everything. But enough about your career. We're here to talk about Leicester now.
Yeah.
The season. So we'll go on to yesterday's game. The season so far. I know it might have been difficult being the manager of the club, but what have you made of Leicester's season so far?
Yeah, like you say, obviously I don't get to many games because normally I'm occupied at the weekends with my own games. So, but I always follow the games. I always either rewatch them or watch the highlights or watch them live when they're playing on Sky. So, seen plenty of them. Just a little bit inconsistent, I think. I think you can see the top level of the team is really high. Games like Tottenham the other week, you can see when they perform like that. Even the first 20, 30 minutes against Man United, the level's really high. The quality is really high. Especially going forwards. I think there's injuries in key areas and a little bit of inconsistency. And you can see the team's just going on a bit of a journey where it's having to evolve a little bit. It's had a few years of really good success under Brendan. And sometimes as players, contracts end or the squad starts to change, you do start to get a little change of dynamic in there. And I think we're probably just managing that a little bit. But you can still see the top level's really good from the team, but just a little bit of inconsistency throughout the season.
Andy Meadows has said about yesterday's game, Brendan tried to set up too defensively. We haven't played defensively the last 3 or 4 games. Why do you think he's changed it against Arsenal? Do you think he gave him a bit too much respect yesterday?
No, I don't think so. I think that sometimes that's easy to roll out that one, but actually when you're coming up against a team that is so good, and Arsenal are outstanding this season in possession of the football, like it's really difficult not to be defensive because they're so competent with the ball. It's a little bit like Man City. You almost have to accept that you're not going to have as much of the ball as you want, and you can try and press them. But if they're playing with the quality that they've got, you end up being forced low, even if sometimes your intention isn't to be that low and defensive. So I've seen Brendan switch up tactics and play against Man City with like low block to counter and done it really, really well. So I think we've probably limited a good Arsenal team to not loads and loads of chances, but obviously it's difficult to get hold of the ball and keep it when you play a team that's as competent as Arsenal are. Yeah,
I think yesterday, I mean, the way I looked at it yesterday, I saw the game yesterday, we were solid at the back. Danny Ward and the Christiansen, Suter, Faze, and Castagna. I think they're making a solid partnership group of five at the back. They're defending well. But then it seemed to be the midfield. We lack creativity. We really lack creativity yesterday. And everyone keeps going on about Madders this, Madders that. We missed him. We should have been done this, blah, 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 blah. Surely we can't be just a one-man team. There's no I in team, is there? We can't build it just around him.
Yeah, it's difficult because it goes without saying that if Maddison's not playing, you're gonna miss him because he's arguably one of the best players in the league, certainly one of the best attacking midfielders in the league. So you take him out, and it's hard to get a like-for-like replacement. So it's always going to be. But also against Arsenal, you probably want legs and players that can press. Guys like Mendy, Dewsbury Hall. We've got those sort of players that are in there that can do that. But obviously, you just take away a little bit of that creative element higher up the pitch when you do that, which probably will mean that you're a little bit more defensive than maybe Brendan would like, because you saw first half an hour against Man United, there was absolutely no intention of sitting back and accepting Man United having the ball. They got after them. But Man U are so dangerous when they win the ball back with the pace that they've got. And that was the biggest threat that we had, I think, when I watched that game.
Yeah, it just seemed yesterday, when we got forward, we got to the final third and we didn't push on. We seemed to slow it up. There was a few times yesterday where we were going forward and we just seemed to stop and slow down and come backwards again. I don't know why we don't go for the kill. I've had a few people moaning at me on Twitter about, oh yeah, if we'd gone for the kill, we'd have got absolutely steamrolled over by Arsenal. But I think if you do it for the first 30 minutes of that game, you put yourself on the front foot, score an early goal, and it puts them under pressure. And we showed that against Arsenal. We showed that against Spurs. We showed that against Villa. We showed that against Man U, even though we didn't score.
Yeah,
it seemed strange how the tactics yesterday changed, and dropping Magic Mendy, as we call him, it seemed strange he dropped Mendy, and I think that made a huge difference. Even though Wilf is a quality player, but he's not been at his best this year.
No, he's a bit inconsistent with a few injuries and coming in and out, and hasn't had that run of games. But I totally get it. Like sometimes you feel, and I'm always looking at it from maybe a coaching perspective and what the manager might be thinking, and probably you want them to go for the kill and try and get that first goal. But I think sometimes it's so hard when you play against a team that is as good as Arsenal are on the ball. Sometimes you get the ball back and attack, and you almost feel like, can we have the ball for a little bit? And then you end up slowing down and trying to control the game the way you want to. And it's hard when you only have a limited possession of the ball because the opponents are so strong. But yeah, I think final third, they've got the players with the 1v1 capabilities, players like Harvey Barnes that can beat a player. So you need to get them on the ball and driving at defenders as much as possible, especially when you play a team that is as attack-minded as Arsenal. If you've got pace going the other way, I think it can cause a threat, and I guess that's what you've got to try and use. And I thought actually that Leicester did that really well in the Man U game, and got Barnes into some really good positions in that game.
Yeah. Just one question. This is sort of to do, you might be able to answer it. Being a manager stuck on that touchline, John Squires, as the crowd did not get behind the team. Does that make a huge difference when you're standing there, the dugout? Can you sense the crowd getting either on your back or on the player's back or encouraging? Can you really feel that in the crowd?
Oh yeah, I felt the crowd get on my back a few times. Don't worry about that. But yeah, 100%. I can't tell you how important the crowd is. Like I've been at games, different. Of course, I've been at different games. I've played against some big teams out in Scandinavia, your Malmos and AIKs and IFK Gothenburgs. And when you get the crowd going against the team, you know you've got the game in your hands. I think it's it's so important that the crowd. And whenever I've been to watch Leicester play, I've always sensed the good atmosphere in general, and that the team, we kind of understand that there are probably bigger clubs in the division than us, and so our competitive advantage is to have a good fan base that's loyal, that gets behind the team. But sometimes when that crowd goes quiet, when you're playing those top teams, of course, it's up for the players to give moments to the crowd, a big tackle, a 1v1 moment, like. And I think we always talk about as coaches that we need players that can change the momentum and bring the crowd with us on the journey. And of course, the players have a responsibility to do that. And then we need the crowd to be able to respond to that. But on the touchline, you sense it. You sense if the crowd's with you. You sense if you're gaining the momentum. You sense when they're not positive. And believe me, you hear everything. So it can be tough down there.
The councillor, morning councillor, how the devil are you, pal? He was saying that it's like a morgue. It was like a morgue down at the KP. The club need to sort out the singing section. Well, we've got a Union FS, and I don't think they were there yesterday. But when I was there last week, against Spurs, the atmosphere was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I haven't been in an atmosphere like that for donkey's years. The King Power was bouncing. I haven't been in there for ages. And he's also saying you could hear the pin drop. And I presume that it's the players that, like you said, the fans need something for the players. Sorry, the fans need to be. I can't think.
Yeah, the players need to give them. Yeah, the players have got to give them something. They've got to give them some moments, whether even defensively, like pressing and that tackle and a counter-attack moment that excites the crowd. You need those players. We always talk about players that get or moments that get the crowd off their seats, and you need to make sure that that you do that. It could be, I just see someone saying Mendy's tackles get the crowd going, and that's little moments like that. They really do shift the momentum. But then you need to rely on the crowd responding on that, and the crowd sometimes needs to understand this is going to be a difficult game. So it works both ways. I often look at it through, because I'm a massive fan of Leicester, but also I look at it through the lens of the coach and the players sometimes, because that's where I've sat. So I love going down there and watching. But of course, like you say, the Tottenham game, the atmosphere is unbelievable. It's hard to create that when you're not on top. So often the crowd are responding to what's going on the pitch.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I've been there many times where I've sat there and it's been, oh God, there's nothing to excite you. And then all of a sudden there's a tackle coming in. And it used to be the same, might be a bit before your time, but Ali Mocklin used to be one of my favourite players. And he used to put a heavy tackle in and the crowd used to be up. Now you can't do the heavy tackles as like he used to get away with, which is a bit unfortunate. That's probably me just being a bit old school that used to like that. Just talking about, like, there's going to be a huge change in the summer. There's 6 or 7, I think 7 actually, out of contract. What do you think he needs to do, Brendan? What do you think he needs to do what kind of players does he look like he needs to bring in from a fan point of view? Try and take your coaching hat off. From a fan point of view, what would you say he needs to replace or do?
I mean, it's obviously going to be at the top end of the pitch, where I think that there's some that will need some creative elements and some variation in what we want. So with, like you say, with really, really top with top players potentially leaving, I don't know that Leicester's going to be a team that invests like the other top 6. And I think we should actually be proud of the way in which we operate the football club, that we've been good in terms of finding talent, bringing it over, selling it on for big money. I think that's an unbelievable model for a football club to have. So of course we've got to go back out into the market and find those gems that are going to excite players. I see somebody saying goalkeeper there. I saw that we were linked with Anthony Patterson. I had Anthony at Notts County on loan from Sunderland, who's, for me, one of the best, probably the best goalkeeper I've ever worked with. Absolutely outstanding. I think there's a few positions. It's going to be a massive transition in the summer, but I certainly think 1 or 2 names that will excite the fans, because there's some big names that are leaving, and I think those players are out there. And then important to be consistent with the way in which Leicester's done it before. Recruit intelligently and bring in some of those exciting talents from abroad. That can get the crowd off the seats.
Yeah, young Reedy says Barnes needs competition, getting worse every game, but he knows he's going to be in next week, which is true. There's no there's no real competition for that right-sided midfield place, is it? I know we brought Tete in, like Ozzy Ringer has said. I'll ask you about Tete in a minute, but there is no other competition for the wingers, isn't there? It's like all season long we were one-dimensional with Barnes down the left, nothing down the right. Now we've got Tete down the left and the right, but Barnes, I think Reid is right there. We do need competition, someone that can kick him up the arse and say, "Look, I'm gunning for your position on that left."
I think in general, the best teams that I've worked with, there's been players that, if you like, are sat just off the shoulder of the other players, and they're fighting for their spot, and it makes training intense and competitive, and it keeps everybody sharp. So I think every top player welcomes competition. Whether it's Barnes or Maddison or Tielemans, they welcome competition because they rise to it. So probably right. In every area you want to be able to add some competition in there because I think it raises the game and the bar of everybody, whether that's training and then the games.
Yeah. John Squire, his nickname's hashtag Tete, too lightweight. Do you think he's a bit lightweight? Because against Villa, he was unbelievable. It was fantastic. But against Spurs, against Arsenal, and against Man U, he was okay, but he wasn't as good as the Villa game. Do you think he's finding the Premier League a little bit harder than he thought?
I tell you what, there's many players have found the Premier League harder than they thought when they first came over. But, you only have to look at players like Riyad Mahrez when he came over. Probably the exact same thing would have been said at that moment, that he's too lightweight. And then you just have to look at how he develops. Some players take time. You can see again, I think sometimes you have to look into what their top level might look like. And Tete's top level looks good when he's on it. I think becoming more accustomed to the Premier League is then when you find whether or not he can do it consistently. But I wouldn't be too concerned about a winger being lightweight because, many of them are. You only have to look across the board.
He's got all the tricks and flicks, hasn't he? And he can beat the players. He showed that yesterday as well in a couple of... He's like in and out of... But like you say, it's a bit like Riyad Mahrez. He was very in and out of the game, but he could just do that one bit of magic that would win you that game. And hopefully, once he gets more settled in and gets a few more games under his belt, the Premier League, it's the toughest league in the world, isn't it, to play in? And you can't expect, especially a Brazilian that likes to play with flair. It's probably a bit too cold for him at the minute coming from Brazil. And he can't get used to it. But there is one player that's come in and he's done an absolutely fantastic job. Victor Christiansen, the left back. Absolutely brilliant. He's built like a bloody Viking. I mean, he makes Luke Thomas look like he's still doing his paper round. I know I like Luke Thomas, but he's built like that. Have you seen much of him? And do you know what do you think to him?
I haven't seen loads of him. Obviously, he's come over from Scandinavia, and I know those leagues well. There's some good players out there, and they're normally in general, when I've worked out there, whether it's Danish player, I've worked with Danish players, Swedish players, Norwegian players, mentality and mindset of those players, training. I think most players want to, if you like, with all due respect, get out of the country and go to bigger leagues. So the ones that tend to do that have been hungry and are ready to go. I think he's a great prospect. He looks good. First time I've really seen him play was when I sat and watched the Man United game. I was very impressed with the bits that I saw from him. I think that's, again, it's another good, intelligent acquisition from the football club that I think should be praised really when they get players like that through the door. I
mean, you've managed over in Scandinavia and worked it. What do they feed him over there? Because he's a big lad for 20. Do they feed him anything different in Scandinavia compared to what they have over in the UK?
Bit of the old mackerel and stuff like that. They some of the but do you know what, they're great mentalities. Some of the lads that I've worked with over the years, and you only have to look at even Norway. Some of the players that have been produced from a country of 4 million, you've got in the Premier League, Elanusi, Odegaard, Haaland. You've had Sander Berg, Christopher Ayer, Joshua King's been there. This is a small country, and they're churning out players playing in top divisions all over Europe. I think they're doing something right out there, and it's a really interesting place to go and look at players. Sometimes they need a step, like Elanusi went to Basel before he went to Southampton. I had him at Sarpsborg years ago. But it's a really good recruitment pool. And like you say, they come hungry and ready to go. And that's what Christiansen looks like.
He certainly does, doesn't he? He's looked like, and who's just put, there was a commentator a second ago, Andy Medhurst. But it's Christensen, future captain. I always thought KDH might be, but I think he's now taking over that Christensen. I mean, he celebrates pretty clearing the ball off the line. He celebrates like he scored a goal. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. But yeah,
I think fans resonate with that when they see a player that's so passionate about the role that they do. So if it's defending and he's so passionate about defending, and you see him put that in there, I think when you used to see like Morgan and Huth, they took so much pride in the defensive side of the game. I think regardless of what maybe they could do in possession or anything like that, the fans love that sort of a player, and that's probably why Christiansen is resonating a little bit with the fans. And I've absolutely no doubt, because I've worked with players out there, that he's probably a very bright and intelligent boy, because they come through a really good system out there. So probably could be a future captain. I think KDH is top class, and a Leicester boy, so that always helps as well. But there's some really good young talents in the squad that I think are really interesting to see. Yeah,
I suppose from your view, you see more of with Forest Green and Notts County, you'd see more of the academy sides, wouldn't you, than the actual first team players, because you've got more chance. I think it was a bit before your time. I think Casey McAteer went to Forest Green.
He did,
the year before you were there, and it gives the youngsters a chance to step up and see how good they are, which is good. I mean, we're talking about KDH. Tom says KDH needs to learn to play the ball forward quicker. 3 times yesterday, he could have put Nacho away in on goal, and every time he had 2 to 3 many touches, which I agree. Yesterday, we just seemed too slow in the build-up play yesterday.
Yeah, I think, again, this is like our reference point for this game is against the best team in the league right now. So obviously the challenge was as big as it's going to be. So then any areas that we think might need to be better probably are highlighted massively in that moment. So KDH maybe playing forwards a little bit earlier and looking for those through passes. You've seen it over the last couple of seasons, the eye for the pass that Tielemans has playing forwards, when you just need that moment to release the pressure of not having the ball and seeing that forward pass. And I think that's important to get that when you play these teams. Like, if there's an opportunity to play forwards and get behind them, you've got to take it.
Yeah. Just a couple more questions. Let me just ask. Somebody's just asked about here it is. The FA Cup. We'll just move off the Arsenal game. The FA Cup on Tuesday against Blackburn. I actually love the FA Cup. I like it, saying to you earlier, old school FA Cup, magic of the cup. Saturday on the FA Cup final, watching it all day. I know Leicester have never been in it until 2 years ago. Absolutely brilliant. I loved it. FA Cup, do you think Ricky P will start on the Tuesday? Is it not so much of an intense game for him to make his seasonal debut?
I don't know. Blackburn are a good side. They've had a decent season, play some good stuff. John Dale Thomason in there. I came up against him in Sweden when he was manager at Malmo. I don't know. It's really hard to say. Obviously, the hardest thing is this return to play. So when a player's been out for so long, to get them back and fit, like, you've got to be really careful with the steps that you take. They might be looking at him saying maybe it's 30 to 45 minutes tops that he needs. So maybe it might be getting introduced to the game. And that's a really important, 30 minutes that he gets bedded in. He's such a massive player for us to be fit and flying, because his quality is so high. But no doubt Brendan wouldn't take a risk with him. So if he's ready for 60, maybe they're starting. But I think it would be a massive boost if we could get him going back end of the season.
I mean, it just seems a bit strange. I mean, not strange. We've had all these injuries. Now the injuries are coming back to it, the recovering and coming back. And yesterday, Tielemans went off with, I think he must have done his ligaments because he was in a boot. I saw a photo of one of them hard boots you do on crutches. And Maddison was out. So I'm not sure. The team's going to be a lot of changes on Tuesday night. He's going to have to make changes, isn't he, in that midfield on Tuesday night?
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like Maddison had some sort of sickness bug. So perhaps they don't risk him on Tuesday. But listen, the squad, there's plenty of players in the squad that will rotate. Some of them, listen, these players are designed to play Saturday, Tuesday, no problems. They're top athletes. So if some of them need to go through Saturday, Tuesday and play again, shouldn't be an issue. But certainly I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 changes. But at the same time, I think that Brendan will massively value the FA Cup. It's now the only route really to achieve something this season. Of course, we want to finish as high as we can in the league, but I think that he won't be bringing too many. I wouldn't think. He'll probably want to get a little bit of consistency back in the team, ready for the weekend.
Yeah. last couple of questions. Staying up or not? Because we're only 3 points. Do you think we're staying up?
No question, yeah.
I'm just got a little bit squeaky bum time for a lot of Leicester fans because 3 points off. We have got the squad. We have got the squad to do it, but it's just not gelling together at the minute, is it?
No, but I would say the 3 games prior to the last 2, we've drawn with a strong Brighton team. Put 4 past Villa, put 4 past Tottenham. So going forwards, we see that we've got decent firepower. I thought we started the game brilliantly against Man U. That can happen away at Old Trafford, and we got beat by a really, really, really good team in Arsenal. But I think we've got more than enough to stay up. I'm not too concerned about that. I see people saying Southampton game's massive. 100%. That's a massive, massive game.
Well, you think these next 3 games, not next 3 games, Southampton, Bournemouth, and Everton, they're the ones.
Yes, of course,
games.
they're key. Southampton with the managerial change, Ruben Selles coming in now till the end of the season. They'll be hoping to get a lift out of that. That was a bad one for them yesterday against Leeds. Ruben actually worked in Norway when I was out there, and I think I played against him when he was at AGF Aarhus. And I think he's a very competent coach. So they'll be really well organised, Southampton.
Good, yeah. Last question before you go. Much appreciated you joining us on a Sunday morning. I think you've got better things in talking to me on a Sunday morning. Where were you when Leicester won the league? On that May the 1st, May the 2nd, were you in Norway or were you in the UK?
No, I was in Norway. So I was watching it by myself in my house that I had in Norway. Obviously, it was during our season. Tell you what, that I probably got more attention in Norway through being a Leicester fan than I did for managing in the top league out there. That was all my post-match interviews were about Leicester and if they were going to win the league. No one cared about our game at that time because they knew that I was a Leicester fan. And but yeah, I remember just sitting up and watching the Chelsea Spurs game. And then all of my mates, they were a lot of them went down into Leicester, into the city centre when the crowds were pouring out, and we were just sharing videos there. But yeah, sadly, I was sat by myself in a house in Norway, but still enjoying it was an unbelievable year, and it was it was a great thing, especially great to be a Leicester fan abroad at that moment, actually.
Yeah, well, I know how you feel living in Spain.
Yeah, of course.
When we won the league, I ran in, got the Leicester flag, ripped it off the wall, got the Leicester flag, running up and down the street, bullfighting the cars. I'd be, and all of a sudden, all these taxi drivers were like, what's this old English bloke doing in the middle of the road with a flag? Because they wouldn't have known, because it wouldn't have been. But the bar was full. It was absolutely unbelievable night. So I know you're feeling. And I had people coming up, shaking my hands. Oh, congratulations. It felt like I'd actually played in it. It was unbelievable. It really was. But Ian, it's been much appreciated, pal. Like I say, once again, cracking Leicester fan there. So get your little insight from behind the scenes, more than actually a Leicester fan. Just a quick one. People are asking about the score on Tuesday. What you said, Blackburn are going to be a tough game. Graham's gone for a 3-1 Leicester. Fee, no, the name's different. This is burchnall. That's burchnall.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. I get that one a lot though. I get that one a lot. Yeah. I get asked that a lot. Right. Yeah.
Oh, Fee, sorry, Fee. I forgot to mention happy birthday, Fee. I forgot to mention that earlier, so happy birthday. Yeah, it is a bit similar. I thought to start off with when I first saw it a couple of years ago. Yeah. But yeah, everyone's got Graham's gone for a 3-1. Put in your comments what you think Tuesday night score will be. Come on then, Ian. This is where you've got to delve into your Mystic Meg crystal balls. What do you think the score will be on Tuesday night, pal?
2-0.
Confident 2-0. Yeah. Confident 2-0.
I'll back the boys.
Do you think that will be a morale boosting, even though it's probably be a different squad, or do you think because of the club winning, will it be a morale boosting to the boys?
It's massive. Like I found this year, we obviously were in the Carabao. We got beat by Brighton in the Carabao, and we got beat off Birmingham in the FA Cup third round. But like even the Papa John's games for us, when we won them, it gave a little boost through the week. So actually, they're really good just to shift momentum back in your favour. If you can get a good performance and results. So I think these cup games can be huge. So yeah, I know that it'll be massively valued by Brendan. And if they get a good result, it could be a really good springboard for the weekend.
Yes, let's hope so. Well, Ian, cheers, mate. Thanks a lot for joining me this Sunday morning. You go and enjoy your Sunday. We shall see you later. Cheers, pal.
Cheers, guys.
You're welcome. Cheers, Ian. Thank you. There's Ian Burchnall giving us a review, a little insight into what it was like being a manager and from his coaching head and everything. It's been absolutely brilliant. But just on a couple of things, you know, I have a little bit of a moan and a groan about things towards the end of the show. Arsenal yesterday had it in the bag. They were pretty much in control. Leicester were limp. It was poor passing. There was no composure, lack creativity. With Madders, there was no cutting edge. But the defence was solid. It was just the final third. We keep on going. We go on to the next game, which is Tuesday, and Southampton is even massive. So we need time now to get behind the boys. Whether you back the club, whether you back the manager, whether you don't, whether you do, whether you don't, it doesn't matter. We need to get behind the club now. We're in a bit of a perilous situation. Be absolutely brilliant. I shall see you next week. So it's ciao, ciao, adios, goodbye. Top of the morning to you. Come on, you foxes.
Thanks for watching Leicester Fan TV. Thanks to our sponsors, ADT Taxis, Everards, Pukka Pies, Pink Car Leasing, Leicester Riders, Hollogram, The Fox's Arms, Peter's Pizzeria, Hope Against Cancer, and Newby Co estate agents. Make sure to follow us on all of our social channels at Leicester Fan TV. Visit our website, leicesterfantv.com.